morning, and welcome to Beware of Spoilers. I am Adam. Let me see up a little bit. It's a little on the warm side today. So, here we are. The final Disney Plus Marvel Studios show of 2022 has begun. With one episode, we are talking about She-Hulk Attorney at Law. Now, I'm not saying I don't like the show. I'm saying that had they released just one episode of WandaVision, I would have been frustrated. I think that something like this, especially for what this episode is meant to be, which is setting up, the episode opens with, we see her practicing her closing statement, and then it goes from there to, and here is, she's practicing her closing statement, and then, as she's walking out, she turns to the camera and goes, okay, well, we're not going to be able to get through to the fun legal show until you get through my origin story, so let's get through my origin story. And then we spend most of the episode on her origin story and how she got her powers and how she became She-Hulk and all of that. And then we get to the end and we get to see her do the lawyering, and Titania shows up and she dispatches Titania, and then that's the end of the episode. And it's like, okay, but give 2 episodes at once when we're launching, so that way I can get a sense of what the show is going to be. Because this episode feels a lot like a pilot in a weird way. Which, again, I don't understand streaming shows that have a pilot. Because you don't need, a streaming show is very often picked up to series. It's not picked up to, you don't have to make a pilot, pitch the pilot to the network, and then possibly reshoot parts of the pilot after getting notes. It's, you've made the pilot's done, we have the show. That's kind of the disconnect I have here a little bit, is this, this idea that there needs to be a separate pilot. And this feels very much like that, where it's like we have a special guest star to sell you on the show, like it's a spin-off, and it doesn't quite work. Like, what it feels like, more than anything else, for the majority of the episodes, it feels like there's a Hulk show ongoing, and this is a backdoor pilot into Jennifer Walters' spin-off. Which, there isn't a Hulk show ongoing, and we don't need to be pitched on the show, because the show is picked up the series and already made. I think that a lot of the humor does land. I'll give the show that. I'm not going to take that away from the show. The humor does land, and it is very funny, and that it does make it amusing and entertaining to watch. I just don't think that they... What's the right way to put this? I just don't think that this episode being, the biggest issue I have is that this is the only episode released, because we don't really get a chance to see what Jennifer looks like and how she acts in her own environment. This is meant to be a workplace sitcom kind of show, but we haven't seen a good amount of the workplace. We haven't seen and then we get to the end of the episode, and she's like, and then I told my friends and family, and it's like, well, show me that. Show me that happen. And I don't understand why that wasn't done either. It's just kind of a strange choice. I'm not saying the show is bad. I'm not saying I didn't like it. It was enjoyable, it was fun to watch, and all of that. I'm just saying that you can shorthand away the training into a montage the way they that's the thing, is when you watch Endgame, they trust you enough to be like, this is Smart Hulk. Smart Hulk is, he's Hulk. He went into the back of the tank, or not the back of the tank, the Gamma tank, and now he's Smart Hulk. Like, the show shows you that, and then trusts you enough to be like, you understand this? All right, good, moving on. Like, this one feels the need to handhold you through it, and it's like, I really don't need to see it. If I don't need to see it for the Hulk, I certainly don't need to see it for She-Hulk. Like, that's kind of the thing. It's like, I don't need to see both of them. What else was there? And for most of the episode to be that. Like, I understand where Bruce is coming from, because I think a lot of what Bruce is going through in the episode comes from the fact that, like, he doesn't have someone else to relate to. There is no other Hulk, and now he's got that person, and he's hoping, oh, good, she's going to be going through the same thing I did. Not hoping for the same trauma and the same all of that, but, like, there's someone else I can talk to about this, someone else who has the same shared experience now, and then that's taken away from him, so he gets annoyed, and it's that kind of thing where it's like, I went through all of this, and she doesn't have to. So, I don't know, it still feels like there's a lot of weird choices in the pilot episode that you're like, well, we don't need to see any of this. If I'm, like, I think it comes down to that, where it's like, if it, like, I don't think anyone watched Endgame and was like, now hold on, how is he now Smart Hulk? How does that happen? I don't think that anyone was really thinking that. Like, and I understand them needing to explain the arm thing, like, fixing his arm. That felt like it was shot in a reshoot. The explanation of the device on the hand that, fixed his arm. I don't know, it just kind of feels weird. There's a lot in the show that I'm like, yeah, that's a decision. I don't know. I'm gonna keep watching. I just wish that they had given a second episode, especially when you spend so much of the first episode covering ground that doesn't necessarily need to be covered. It just ends up feeling like a waste of time then. And I feel like you're like, okay, well, we're covering this because that's, what would happen. It's like, a lot of the ground that's covered here, like if you look at like a CW show, doesn't get covered entirely in the first episode, which, I mean, I'm saying a CW show because not to critique, this or anything or use it in a disparaging way, but like, we kind of have a roadmap for how the superhero origin on television should work. And if you look at like, The Flash or Supergirl or shows like that, there isn't like one, when you do it like this, there isn't an establishment of, what's it called? What's the one I'm looking for here? Like, everything about the character's powers is not laid out entirely in one episode just to get it out of the way. It is kind of interspersed throughout the show. And cut up. Just to make sure that we're not, spending entire swaths of time covering the same things over and over again that may not necessarily need to be covered 100%. And all at once. As long as it gets covered by the end of the show, then who cares? You have 8 hours to do it. You don't need to lay it all out in the first half hour. I don't know. The mid-credit scene is pretty funny. And I think that was the moment, and it's a disappointment too, because I think that was the moment. Like they do a lot in this episode of really selling you on Jennifer Walters as a character. And I think that the show does do a good job of that. But I just feel like and I will give it this too. It's like, I'm thinking about like Shazam, where Billy and Shazam feel like two different characters. Jennifer and as She-Hulk don't feel like two different characters. It's still Jennifer. So I don't know. I would have liked to have seen a second episode. Like, if I'm being totally honest. I think a second episode would have made it a little bit clearer as to where the show is going, but with one episode that's devoted mostly, I would say a solid 85% to her origin, and an origin in a flashback, no less. I feel like that's it's an odd choice. Because it's kind of just jarring, where it's like, it feels like a sitcom pilot when it doesn't have to be. Like, that's the thing. If they did this and this is a show they were pitching to ABC, this would be a strong episode for that, for a weekly episodic network show, where we need to pitch a weekly thing, because you get a little bit of everything. You get her origin, you get, the kind of villain of the week, you get, that makes a lot of sense, and I can see that working very well. I don't necessarily think it's the best course of action for a show that has already been pitched to the series. Because you're going to have that built-in audience. You're going to have more than this one episode to tell that story. Why are we bothering to do it in this way and waste time? Where you, in a show that has been not picked up the series and you have to sell it to a network, you have to give up valuable narrative real estate to pitching the show to the network. That's just the reality of how it works. You don't have to do that on a streaming show where you're getting 8 episodes. You just don't have to. And because it's Marvel Studios, you don't have to try and sell it to an audience either, because it's got a built-in audience already, where people are going to show up just because of the Marvel Studios logo before it. And by the way, I do like the little touch that the Marvel Studios logo does consistently add in new stuff to it, as new things come out. Like, in the new one that they have before She-Hulk, there is, There is, what's what I'm looking for here? Miss Marvel's in it, and so is Jane as Thor. I just feel like there's a little bit of an issue there with this episode being what it was, when it had no logistical reason why it needed to be that. But yeah, I don't think there's really too much more to talk about with that. I think that I really covered all my issues with the episode. But look, the episode itself is fine. I mean, it's not the right distribution medium for this type of episode. And then on top of that, too, we still don't have a sense of where the show is going or anything like that. I would have given a second episode, just to be like, okay, so here's what we're doing next. And I don't know why they didn't do that. It doesn't really make sense, to me at least, as to why that would be, happening. But we will wrap up there for today. And I think that's really all I have to talk about that. Let's see, what else have we got? We have an episode about Harley Quinn tomorrow morning, because that was a pretty funny episode last night that I watched. And tonight I will be seeing Dragon Ball Super: Superhero, the ridiculous named latest entry in the Dragon Ball Super movie franchise, with Gohan coming back and doing things, so that'll be cool. Then tomorrow I'm seeing Beast, the Idris Elba Lion movie, so that could be pretty interesting. And I think that really just about covers it. I think that's everything. But until our next episode, have a great rest of your week.